In this video, a homeowner association Karen called the cops on me because I refused her access to my pool property. She claimed the pool belongs to her. Let's dive right into the video. Hey r/legal advice, I need some guidance on how to handle this properly. So for context, I'm a mechanical engineer who bought a house in an upscale development in suburban Atlanta about 2 years ago. The neighborhood is nice, if a bit stuffy, with the usual HOA rules about lawn maintenance and house colors. I've always followed the rules to the letter and never had any issues until now. Last month I finally finished installing a custom swimming pool in my backyard. I did everything by the book. I got HOA approval for the design, pulled all the proper permits and hired licensed contractors. The pool has all the required safety features, including a fence that meets local code. I spent a significant amount designing it with special features like an infinity edge and programmable LED lighting. It is beautiful, and I was really looking forward to enjoying it this summer. Well, enter Anna, our HOA president. So I'd had minimal interaction with her before this, mainly seeing her power walking through the neighborhood in her designer workout gear while talking loudly on her phone. That changed last week when she showed up at my door unannounced. "Hi neighbor," she chirped with this weird artificial smile. "I couldn't help but notice your gorgeous new pool. The whole neighborhood's been talking about it." I thanked her politely, already getting a weird feeling about where this was going. "You know," she continued, "as HOA president, I've been thinking about ways to build community spirit. Having such a beautiful pool just sitting there most of the day seems like such a waste. I think it would be wonderful if you open it up for community use. We could organize pool parties, swimming lessons for the kids, and maybe even water aerobics classes. Wouldn't that be fabulous?" I blinked at her, wondering if I'd heard correctly. "I'm sorry, but this is my private pool. I designed and paid for it myself. It's not a community amenity." Her smile flickered for a second before returning, even more forced than before. "Oh, but as HOA president, I have certain discretionary powers when it comes to community resources. I'm sure we could work something out. Maybe a small monthly contribution to the HOA maintenance fund could help smooth things over." Was she seriously trying to extort me here? "Well, I appreciate the suggestion," I said firmly, but my answer is no. The pool is private property and I'm not interested in sharing it. That's when her facade cracked completely, her face turned red and she jabbed her finger at me. "Listen here, you selfish little man. Do you know who I am? I have connections all over this county. The HOA bylaws give me broad authority to act for the community's benefit, and I'm telling you, this pool needs to be shared. Don't make this difficult for yourself." I shut the door in her face. Maybe not the most diplomatic move, but I was done with the conversation. Well, that is when things got crazy. Over the next few days I started finding printed copies of random HOA bylaws in my mailbox with sections about community spirit and shared resources highlighted. None of them actually said anything about forcing homeowners to share private property, of course. Then Anna organized a neighborhood watch program that seemed to consist entirely of her friends walking past my house at all hours, taking pictures and making notes. I installed security cameras at this point, which captured them regularly coming right up to my fence to peer into the backyard. Yesterday, it all came to a head. I was swimming laps when I heard voices in my backyard. I got out to find Anna leading a group of 3 women in bathing suits through my gate, carrying pool floats and coolers. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "This is private property. Get out of here." "This pool has been requisitioned for community use by authority of the HOA board," Anna announced grandly. "If you continue to restrict access, I will have no choice but to take official action." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "This is my private property. You are trespassing. Leave now or I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," she screeched. "I'm calling them myself. We will see what they have to say about you hoarding community resources." And yeah, she actually did it. She called 911 and reported me for illegally restricting access to neighborhood amenities and creating a so-called hostile environment. Her performance when the police arrived was something else, crying about how I was destroying neighborhood unity and endangering children by denying them access to their pool. Thankfully, I had security footage of her trespassing, copies of all her threatening notes and documentation showing the pool was permitted as a private residence feature. The officers quickly understood what was really going on and warned her about making more false police reports. Well, now she is sending emails to the entire neighborhood about how I am under investigation and warning people not to associate with me. I'm worried about what she might try next and want to protect myself legally. Important details just to sum up: I have copies of all HOA documents including the bylaws, all pool permits and approvals are in order, I have security footage of multiple trespassing incidents, and I have copies of all her written communications. The false police report is documented too. What is my best course of action here? Should I be proactively doing anything to protect myself? Can I take legal action to stop her harassment? Thanks in advance for any advice. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, if you would be in this situation, what would you have done? Would you have already hired a lawyer, or would you have taken things slowly? And by the way, I'm also curious, are you still interested in r/legal advice? To be honest, this is actually one of the subreddits that kind of built up my channel, because a lot of my old, most popular videos are from this subreddit. I'm now trying to read more from there again, because honestly, in the past I just read so many stories that not much was left over. However, now there's quite a lot of new content and I can read some more stuff from there. Let me know what you think. Either way, some of the top comments said, "You've actually done a great job documenting everything so far. A few key points and recommendations. First, nothing in Georgia law or any standard HOA bylaws would give an HOA president authority to requisition private property. This is completely baseless. Number 2, the false police report is actually quite serious. Making a false report to 911 is a misdemeanor in Georgia under OCGA paragraph 161026(3). Her actions constitute criminal trespass under Georgia law, and the pattern of behavior could qualify as stalking. Immediate actions you should take: send a certified letter formally demanding she cease all harassment and trespassing, file a formal complaint with the HOA board about her abuse of position, and consider filing for a restraining order if the harassment continues. Also, contact your homeowner's insurance to make sure that you're properly covered in case she or her friends try to use the pool and get injured or something. Document everything going forward, keep backing up those security recordings." And yeah guys, seriously, that is one of the worst things when it comes to people trespassing on your property and potentially using your pool. If they get injured or something, then you are liable and you could get in deep trouble, especially if children are involved or whatever, which would make it even worse. Another person said, "HOA board member here, your president is way out of line and likely violating multiple provisions of your HOA's governing documents. Most HOAs have removal procedures for board members who abuse their position. Request a copy of these procedures and gather support from other homeowners. Her behavior is a massive liability risk for the HOA. No board wants a president who's making false police reports and trying to seize private property." Another person said, adding to the other comments, you should seriously consider filing a police report about the criminal trespass. Even if you don't want to press charges, having an official report will help establish a pattern if you need to take legal action later. Also, review your HOA's D&O insurance policy if you can get access to it. Her actions potentially void coverage for the HOA board, which would be very interesting information for other board members to have. And now we got an update to the story that goes like this. Well, first, thank you everyone for all the great advice on my original post. I wanted to update you on what happened and how it all worked out. Following your suggestions, I took several actions. So I sent Anna a certified letter demanding that she cease all harassment and trespassing, drafted with help from a lawyer. Number 2, I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, including all my documentation of her behavior. And number 3, I filed a police report about the trespassing incidents. Furthermore, I contacted my homeowner's insurance and got confirmation of my coverage, plus added some extra liability protection just in case. The response was faster than I expected. It turns out that I was not the only homeowner having issues with Anna. After receiving my formal complaint, other board members called an emergency meeting. Several other residents came forward with their own stories of Anna's abuse of power, though apparently I was the first to do so thoroughly document everything. The meeting was intense. Anna showed up with a thick binder she claimed contains evidence of various violations I had committed, but when pressed to show specific bylaws I had violated, she could only sputter about community spirit and selfish behavior. Meanwhile, I presented clear video evidence of her trespassing, copies of her threatening messages, and documentation of the false police report. The real turning point came when I highlighted a specific clause in our HOA bylaws about board member conduct. It turns out that any board member whose actions create legal liability for the HOA can be immediately removed. When I pointed out that making false police reports and attempting to seize private property opened the HOA to significant liability, the other board members perked up real quick. The board voted 6-1, guess who was the one, to remove Anna as president. Here is the best part though, there was another clause stating that HOA board members removed for cause are personally responsible for any legal costs incurred by the HOA due to their actions. The HOA had to pay for an emergency consultation with their lawyer about the false police report situation, and now Anna has to reimburse them. She stormed out of the meeting screaming about lawsuits, but her lawyer apparently explained reality to her. And yesterday I saw a moving truck in her driveway. Word is that she is relocating for work, but everyone knows that she is leaving because she cannot handle facing the neighborhood after everything that happened. The new HOA president stopped by to apologize for the whole situation and assured me that nothing like this will happen again. They are also reviewing all the violations Anna had filed against other homeowners during her tenure. As for me, I'm enjoying my pool in peace. I did end up hosting one community event, a pool party celebrating the new HOA leadership. Anna's replacement is a retired judge who seems to actually understand things like private property rights and due process. Thanks again for all the advice though. Remember to document everything, know your rights, and don't let anyone bully you, even if they are an HOA president. Edit, since several people asked, yes, I did file for a restraining order, but it became moot once she decided to move. Also, the police decided not to go further for the false report since she's leaving the area, and I'm fine with that outcome. And the next one is another fantastic HOA story that you don't want to miss. It is titled, "My HOA's one employee hate crimed me. The board thinks an apology will do." And by the way, if you still enjoy the HOA stories, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel because that would help me tremendously. So in September, a man was digging something on the edge of my 6-acre property in rural Wisconsin state, about 20 feet in, near the road. I approached him in a friendly manner, thinking that he was one of the shed guys coming to install my new sheds. I called out as I approached, "Hey there, who are you with?" And he literally started yelling at me. He screamed that it was none of my business. I was very confused since it was my own property, so I said that and kept asking who he was. He kept screaming nonsensical things. I thought he was on drugs. Finally, after 5 minutes of this man screaming, a woman called out from the road, "He's the caretaker!" At this point I was upset and I yelled at the man, "You're the caretaker? You cannot talk to me like that. Who do you think you are? I've been living here and have owned it for 5 years." The man started off towards the house, screaming my partner's name at the top of his lungs. They were with Zoom clients, so I followed him, keeping a 20-foot distance. I said, "I'm the homeowner, not partner's name. They are busy, talk to me." He then yelled, "Liar, the homeowner is woman's name." I laughed and said, "I am woman's name. I'm trans, but I have not changed my name yet." Note that I'm a very small petite trans man with a full beard. This guy is a giant and about 300 pounds, very brawny. It took a moment for him to dumbfoundedly compute what I was saying. It was like watching gears click into place. He exploded, screaming in rage, and started to chase after me, waving the heavy long metal rod he was holding. I later found out it was something to do with the water meter. He kept screaming, "You idiot, you damn idiot," over and over. This went on for at least 5 minutes, him pursuing me all around my large wooded yard and driveway, and I genuinely think he would have hurt me if a guy logging the dead wood at the perimeter of my property had not run over to stop him. He knew him. The guy was walked off by his wife and the logger, but not before calling me a homophobic F-slur several more times and threatening to turn off my meters. I was shaking at this point. I had done nothing to this guy. We contacted the board and said that we wanted to make a police report. The board president urged me not to and said if I did, it put me and the whole community in danger from this guy. The board president acknowledged the guy's history of fights with guests of the community, but said that he had never used slurs or been violent. He promised it was a near certainty that he'd be fired. I have this all recorded and told him that I was recording from the outset. Instead of firing him, they hired an investigator who I provided with video of the aftermath discussion with the caretaker's wife and board president call. Now the board says that they are taking personnel actions, I guess, and offered me a written apology. Meanwhile, my partner and I broke up, and I have not been able to return out of fear for my safety. The whole Trumper community now knows that I'm trans. I heard my trash cans were strewn everywhere, and my generator stopped working. To be clear, the caretaker is the sole HOA employee, the community pays his salary and provides him a free home on the property. Thank you, useless HOA, now I pay my hate crimer to live in a place that I can't. And the next one is a fantastic malicious compliance story. It is titled, "Work my hours or we will find someone who will." So there I was working at a mid-sized IT firm as a software developer. So my team had always been pretty laid back, focusing on results rather than the exact hours we were glued to our desks. Our projects were delivered on time, our clients were happy, and our team morale was high. Well, that is until we got a new project manager. Let's call him Dave. Dave was fresh from a highly regimented corporate background and had ideas about proper workplace management, which basically meant micromanaging everything. He would schedule unnecessary daily status meetings, demanded that we fill out hourly work logs, and insisted that everyone strictly adhere to 9 to 5 office hours with minimal breaks. Well, one day, during one of his infamous efficiency crackdowns, he sent out an email with a new policy that all coding must be done strictly within office hours to ensure collaboration and supervision. This was ridiculous because creative work like coding often requires flexible hours for maximum productivity. But Dave was adamant and he ended his email with, "If you think you can find a loophole, think again. Follow the rules or we will find someone who will." Well, challenge accepted, Dave. I decided to comply meticulously. I coded strictly between 9 AM and 5 PM, not a minute earlier, not a second later. If I encountered a bug or was in the middle of a complex piece of code, well, too bad, 5 PM means the end no matter what. My teammates, fed up with being treated like school children, followed my lead. The results were predictable. Projects that usually took a couple of weeks started dragging on. Tasks that we could have completed in days with a bit of overtime took much longer because we could not capitalize on the bursts of late afternoon productivity we were used to. Our workflow was severely disrupted and the quality of our work started to deteriorate. Dave noticed, of course, and he had to answer to upper management for the sudden drop in productivity and lack of commitment, which he knew was a result of our dissatisfaction with his new policy. Well, when upper management called for an impromptu Zoom meeting with the entire at 4:30 PM to address the ongoing project delays, the entire team logged in to explain our situation. In the meeting, Dave spent half an hour shifting blame and berating individual team members. He did not even mention the 9 to 5 policy that had led to the whole situation. As the clock ticked towards 5 PM, the tension in the virtual room was palpable and our team hatched a plan over text. Well, right on cue, as the clock struck 5 PM, one of the employees spoke up. "In compliance with Dave's 9 to 5 rule, we must log off now." And without missing a beat, every team member clicked leave meeting, leaving a stunned Dave to face the executives alone. This abrupt mass exit highlighted the impracticality of Dave's rigid policy, making it clear to the executives that change was necessary. The incident, quickly dubbed as the 5 PM Zoom Exodus, led to another meeting where Dave was publicly admonished and instructed to abolish his strict rules in favor of more flexibility. As for me and my team, we made sure to celebrate our little victory with a well-deserved happy hour after 5 PM, of course. And as a final treat, I will read one new story from r/petty revenge that you don't want to miss. It is titled, "Police won't do anything when I call? Well, then I will just get you to call them on yourself." So for the past several weeks and months, we have the same large van parked in the entranceway to our flats on a daily basis. To list, it was on double yellows at the end of a junction in front of a dropped curb, blocking the footpath, blocking the vision of us residents when pulling out, and blocking the entry for large vehicles, and also right in front of a no parking sign. Of course, I called the police multiple times about it, but to no avail, so I decided to try a different method. When the van was once again parked in its usual spot, I went down with my jar of jam and smeared it over the handle of the driver door. A while later I see the owner pacing around the van on his phone, and not long after the police showing up and him showing them the vandalism, followed by the police leaving and him moving his van. He has not been back since. And then a user in the commented, "Pettiness as sweet as jam," which is indeed true. And I just decided we will read one last petty revenge story that is titled "Park in the Driveway, Get Stuck for 2 weeks." So just for context, my friend's house has a small driveway but large bushes on either side of it. It's on a street right next to a very popular park. On the 4th of July, the park was packed and street parking was hard to find. He was away, and when he came back to his house, some Karen had parked in his driveway. He decided to park, blocking his driveway completely, in his rarely used car. He then went inside and soon heard a knock at his door. It was the Karen. She demanded that he would let her car out this very instant. He said that she stomped to exaggerate every syllable. He then closed the door in her face. She called the police and they said that he was parked legally in his own driveway. She got a ride with someone super angry. The angry Karen apparently said that if he didn't move it by the morning, she would call her lawyer. In the morning, she came back and demanded the car be let out and complaining about Ubers. The Karen also let it slip that it was a rental car and that she was visiting family, and something along the lines of, "The kids need my car to get around, they will be super sad." My friend shut her out. For the next 2 weeks she came by daily, screaming at him. The Karen was supposed to leave 2 days after the 4th, but had to extend her stay just to get the car. He eventually moved the car, but then called a towing company to tow her car and informed her of it. A couple months ago, she sent a bill to them for the hotel. Her family kicked her out after a week, and the rental car, the import cost, and food at some of the most expensive places in town. It was over $5,000 and it went in the bin. I just thought this was funny and I had to post it here. I guess the lesson learned was, don't park in strangers' driveways. And yeah guys, if you enjoyed the video, please post some star emojis in the comments and I will see you again tomorrow.